Our sense of hearing is essential to our everyday existence. Hearing well allows us to participate fully in life, to enjoy social activities and the company of others. Hearing is important in protecting us from hazards too. But as we age, we may find that our hearing is not as good as it once was.
Is there a family history of hearing loss? Your parents, brothers, or sisters?
Yeah, my father had hearing loss.
Did he wear a hearing aid?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, good. How about, did you have ear infections when you were younger?
Yep.
Good. Did you require any surgery to correct any of this?
I had the equivalent of tubes put in.
Good, okay.
People with hearing loss may experience some or all of the following problems. Difficulty hearing conversations, especially when there is background noise. Difficulty hearing high-pitched sounds, such as the voices of women or children. Difficulty hearing the television or radio at a normal volume. Hissing, roaring, or ringing in the ears, also known as tinnitus. Fatigue and irritation caused by the effort to hear. If you think you might have a hearing loss, it is important to have your hearing checked by a doctor. Your doctor may refer you to an otolaryngologist, a doctor who specializes in the ear, nose, and throat.
An examination by an otolaryngologist or ear, nose, and throat specialist will include a history to determine the cause of the hearing loss. For example, if there a family history of hearing loss, was there a history of ear infection, was there any history of trauma to the ear, was there a history of noise exposure, which happens to be one of the most common causes of hearing loss that we see in people today. After the history, the specialist will then perform an examination, which includes an examination of the outer ear and the ear canal to determine whether there's any obstruction from wax or narrowing or tumor formation. They will examine the middle ear and the eardrum to determine whether there's any evidence of any destruction, such as a perforation of the eardrum, whether there's any tumor formation or fluid in the middle ear, whether there's any evidence of any destruction of the conductive bones in the middle ear.
Your doctor may also refer you to another hearing professional, an audiologist. An audiologist can measure your hearing.
You're going to hear a series of beeping sounds. Some of them you'll hear easily, but most of them are going to be quite soft. When you hear any sound at all, I want you to signal for me by just lifting your finger, if you would, please. Okay? In an audiologist's office, the exam for hearing sensitivity involves taking a history, examining the ear to see if there's wax accumulation or some obstruction, and a hearing test to determine whether there's a partial loss of hearing, whether there's an element of distortion, and that testing takes place in a soundproof room, using earphones or inserts to conduct sound to one ear at a time, and to listen to a variety of tones, some low-pitched and kind of humming, others very high-pitched and squeaky, and they're trying to determine the very softest level they can barely make out these tones. Information obtained in an audiological evaluation is usually described and displayed as an audiogram. You make a graph of those test results. And I have such a graph here. The numbers across the top identify the different tones that are tested, ranging from the low kind of humming sounds at this end, and as the number gets bigger, you're talking about progressively higher and squeakier sounds. The numbers down the side are units of loudness, decibels. And people are more sensitive to some of these tones than others. We don't hear dog whistles very well, for example, but that sensitivity is already calibrated into the test equipment. So if you have normal hearing, you should be able to hear the sounds all the way down to 0, which is baseline.
Otolaryngologists and audiologists can work together to find the treatment that is right for you. As we grow older, staying engaged in activities we enjoy can enrich our lives. Making sure our hearing is functioning as well as possible can help keep us in the swing of things. Hearing. It is an essential part of everyday life. But as we grow older, we are more likely to have problems with our hearing. There are many causes of hearing loss. Hearing can get worse as we age. Other causes include certain prescription drugs, heredity, head injury, infection, illness, and circulation problems such as high blood pressure. But one cause of hearing loss that is 100% preventable is noise.
Loud noise is an important cause of hearing loss. The inner ear organ of hearing is a structure called the cochlea. The cochlea has little cells called hair cells because they have tiny projections called stereocilia. Loud noise can overstimulate the cochlea, and in terms of overstimulation, the result is injury or even death and destruction of hair cells. The problem with death and destruction of hair cells is, at least at this point in time, we can't replace them. Once they're gone, they're gone. And so it's very important to protect one's hearing from exposure to any loud noise.
People are exposed to loud noises every day. In the home, on the streets, in public places. Noise is everywhere. But how do you know if loud noise has affected your hearing?
Well, the hearing loss that's just occurred very rapidly, but sometimes like a sudden hearing loss when you've been exposed to, say, an explosion or a rock concert, people will typically complain that their ear feels blocked up. They feel like they have cotton in their ear, and they have, paradoxically enough, a noise in their ear, the noise we call tinnitus. Now, sometimes after a loud noise exposure, as in a rock concert, you will feel that sensation for several hours, maybe even close to a day, and then it will gradually go away. That tells you that you had a serious injury to your inner ear. In some cases, you're not that lucky, and that hearing loss may be permanent.
There are two general types of hearing loss. Conductive hearing loss occurs when sound waves cannot reach the cochlea. The cause may be earwax buildup, fluid, or a punctured eardrum. Medical or surgical treatment can usually restore conductive hearing loss. Sensorineural hearing loss occurs when there is damage to the inner ear or the auditory nerve. This type of hearing loss is permanent. It is also the type that can result from loud noise. There are ways you can protect yourself from noise-induced hearing loss.
There are a number of devices that are commercially available. You can go into your local hardware store and pick them up. It's important to look at the amount of hearing protection the different devices give and judge according to what you think your exposure is going to be. One tip is, though, a piece of cotton or a piece of napkin jammed in your ear canal isn't protective at all, and we really recommend against that. In general, when you think of things like chainsaws, lawn mowers, leaf blowers, those are the kinds of situations where you should just get into the habit of putting on some sort of hearing protection, and then you can be safe and rest assured and go about your activities without any concern.
Your hearing is precious. By taking good care of your hearing, and by talking to your doctor if you think you have a hearing problem, you can continue participating fully in life while enjoying some of its most important sounds.
Good. How long have you had your hearing loss?
Probably all my life, but I didn't find out about it until I was about 30.
Okay. Has it gotten worse over the years?
It gets gradually worse, yes.
Hearing loss is one of the most common conditions affecting older adults. It comes in many forms, as we can see with this patient undergoing a hearing exam by his otolaryngologist.
Are there any specific situations where you're having difficulty hearing?
Any place where there's a crowd, lots of people talking.
How about telephone?
Telephones are okay.
Movies, theater?
And most of them are too loud, actually.
Okay, they are, okay. Do you have any fullness or pressure in your ears?
No.
Do you have any ringing or noises in your ears?
I have ringing.
Both ears?
Yes.
Is it constant or does it come and go?
Depends on, it's probably there all the time. I hear it when it's quiet.
Good. How about dizziness, specifically a spinning sensation?
No.
Hearing performs an important role in our lives. It is essential for our daily existence. How we hear is a complex yet finely tuned process. The sound passes through the outer ear and is funneled into the middle ear, where it bounces off the eardrum and is amplified by 3 tiny bones, the malleus, incus, and stapes. These are the smallest bones in your body. Together, they are smaller than an orange seed. The sound then travels into the part of the inner ear known as the cochlea, which is filled with fluid. Hair cells in the cochlea convert the sound vibration to an electrical impulse which travels to your brain. As we get older, the chance of developing a hearing loss increases.
Well, it's very interesting. The ear is affected by the aging process, just as so many other structures are. There is, in fact, a particular hearing loss associated with aging known as presbycusis, and is exceedingly common in the senior population. It's not an uncommon condition at all. In general, what happens is that there is loss of the hair cells. They gradually deteriorate. And sometimes even there can be some loss of their associated nerve fibers. In general, the way this presbycusis, or hearing loss with aging, shows up is for a poorer hearing for the high-pitched sounds or the high frequencies. The inability to hear those high frequencies means that you have real difficulty hearing when there's background noise. You have major difficulty hearing women and children in particular because their voices are more highly pitched. And you also have some difficulty distinguishing different words because consonants, things like B's and P's and C's, K's, all those things, those kinds of sounds are again more towards the high frequency end or the higher pitch end of the hearing rainbow.
Some people may not want to admit that they have trouble hearing, but not hearing well can keep you from participating fully in everyday life.
Hearing is essential for our daily existence. If you have a significant hearing loss, you may not hear the doorbell, you may not hear the telephone. If there's a fire alarm, you may not hear it. If you're crossing the street, you may not hear a car horn or a fire engine siren. If you have a severe hearing loss, you may actually have difficulty in one-to-one communication, even when you're facing a person, where the point comes to where you may actually have to be reading their lips. It's also interesting to note that a majority of people may not even be aware that they have a hearing loss, and they are informed by their friends and relatives that they think that they may have a hearing problem.
Hearing problems that are ignored or untreated can get worse. If you have a hearing problem, you can get help.
If you are an older person who's experiencing hearing loss, my advice to you is don't neglect it. Don't be shy or don't be bashful. You should have your ears examined and you should have a hearing test performed, because hearing loss can be treated today. And don't forget, with a hearing loss that can be corrected, you can improve on the quality of your life.